Welcome everybody to Self-Storage Income, and today I have Alex Harman and Peter Smyth, and I'm very excited to talk to you guys and learn a lot more about what you guys have got going on and hear what you guys are doing with Local Locker. So first and foremost, why don't we introduce the audience to you guys and let them know who you are, what you guys are currently doing before we dive deep.
Yeah, sure. And AJ, thank you for having us. We're very lucky to be here. So this is Alex speaking. My co-founder, Pete, is sitting next to me. So I'll give you just a quick rundown of sort of what we do and how we're involved in the self-storage industry. 6 years ago, we graduated business school. Time sort of flying on us. While in business school, we decided to start a company called Local Locker. Local Locker, what we do is we find underutilized space in dense cities and convert it to self-storage. Really small locations, 50 to 200 units. We manage all of these remotely, and we really are laser focused on sort of customer service, marketing these locations that are otherwise hard to find. Along the way there, we realized, hey, we can manage facilities remotely and we can do it for other people. With that, we launched White Label Storage, which is just a third-party management company focused on remote locations. So that's sort of at a high level what we do.
We started off as just classmates and buddies at Harvard Business School. We were in the same section first year. You take all your classes, 90 people. I sort of came into school with the idea. I didn't want to work for someone after school. That was the one goal. And I was coming from a real estate background. I worked for a real estate developer called Hines, and then a real estate private equity firm called Federal Capital Partners. And sort of my mix of experiences had me fascinated with the self-storage asset class and specifically like urban uses. We were buying apartment buildings at FCP, and at Hines we were developing in the urban core. These were Class A assets and not storage. All the while, the self-storage asset class was sort of the darling asset class of the Green Streets of the world. This was 2012 to 2016. So when I started developing this idea, we were kind of like, man, there's these chicken wire cages in the basements of apartment buildings are getting very high rents per foot, often, more than the apartments themselves. And, you survey the asset, talk to the property manager when you're doing diligence on a property. And often the response is when you say like, what would you change about this building? It's like, there's just not enough space. The tenants don't have enough space. It's not every city, but it is at least the cities that we lived in. Alex was an easy pitch on this Local Locker concept because he's one of the guys that lived in a 1-bedroom that was split into a 3-bedroom with illegal temp walls in New York City. So we spent the first part of the second year of business school just trying to understand, like, we were always confident the demand would be there for like an urban walkable storage product, but we didn't really understand what the supply would look like. And during that second year, we talked to enough landlords, saw enough space that we decided to run with it. And in fact, Alex had already accepted his offer to go work at BCG. He had to pay back his
that was tough for me because his full-time business school programs in 2 years without income. Essentially I had a signing bonus that because I interned, they gave me the signing bonus. I deposited the signing bonus, and then when I had to pay back the signing bonus because I didn't end up joining, I had less money in my checking account than I owed. So it was starting off certainly with not much of a safety net, that's for sure.
So you guys have this idea, right? And the fundamental idea around it is driven by the space in multifamily and the economic differences between the chicken wire space and the nice space and that spread overall. And you were looking at the storage industry itself and seeing the makeup and the landscape of the competitors. And when you guys were looking at that, where did you view that what you wanted to create, how did that fit into the industry?
Yeah, and Pete had more of the real estate background. I did not. So I wasn't looking at it as this arbitrage spread. Like, the business model requires it. I was looking at it more from a consumer. Like, as Pete mentioned, I was in an East Village apartment with more roommates than bathrooms, very few closets. I was sort of tired at looking at my roommate's bike that was always just kind of in our living room. So the idea of the ability to offer storage closer to where the consumers are really appealed to me. The ability to sort of, to tell everyone, hey, store your bike across the street at the, a local storage location. We'll all, we could all chip in as a house, pay, $25 a guy and declutter our apartment. So that's what appealed to me. And I saw the consumer appeal.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously started out with an operating business, right? We don't own space, or actually neither of the businesses that we have. And I guess it never occurred to us, like we were always working on this new concept. I think our minds were in the place of like, let's do something interesting that no one else is doing, combined with we don't have money to go buy storage assets. And as students, it would be difficult. I mean, people have actually done it, and with much larger outcomes than one would imagine. We're syndicating capital and buying deals in business school, but that was just like not on our radar. We didn't have a fund, and we didn't have an investor base to go to and try to buy up assets. So we were just kind of focused on this consumer product. It was really, it's closer to like when you think about like the team that was required to sort of just get this thing off the ground and scale it. It looked closer to like starting like a Soul Cycle style or like a retail focused business, and then really look at like a real estate management company. And then it evolved into that because, we opened this store and we had customers, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, what's the process? Like, we need to build a playbook here. We need to build a process to run these things. We need to figure out a way to answer phones, and started thinking about the tech stack that goes into it. And, that was the evolution of the concept. But where our minds were just not in the place of where do we fit in the self-storage industry. It was really like, how do we provide a new service to people in the city that need it, and in an economic model that makes sense.
And what city did you start out in?
We started out in New York. Our first location was in the East Village on 12th and A, for any listeners in New York who might know that area.
Okay. So you started out in New York, and walk me through how that first one went.
The first one, it was a little scary. I think starting anything, new is scary, particularly if you're more in the entrepreneurship, like, and any failure is a little bit public, right? We were talking about, I sort of had given up a really good job to try this. So to do that and then sort of instantly fail, you feel like kind of an idiot, right? So yeah, first one, we came to a deal with a landlord. He had an empty basement, a great location, but the basement had been sitting empty because it didn't really have much any other commercial use. Came to a deal with him. We threw up, 60 storage units in the basement. And then, one day you open, like, now, unlike a restaurant opening or something where there's a lot of fanfare, maybe you're doing the friends and family night, you're sort of marketing it. I think some of your listeners, when you open a self-storage facility, it's not, there's no local media, there's nothing. So you turn on the switch, right? But then it's not like there's a line outside the door. It's not like anyone's calling, right? So it's crickets for a while.
Yeah, and we hadn't done much by way of marketing either. We were like, man, I hope somebody wants one of these units. Yeah. So it was,
but eventually they did. They leased up. We started to see some traction. I think we also opened in like the dead of winter, which, I think across the industry is slow, but perhaps even slower in your cold weather markets. So, it was slow at first, but it was enough to give us confidence. And then the nice thing about that business model is like 60 units in the scheme of, New York City isn't that much, right? No impact on supply. You don't need that many people to know about it, to want it to fill up. So from there, we opened our second location, our third, and so on. And, we've sort of proven that there's demand for this product in dense cities over time. But yeah, now we've been at that for 6 years now.
Now, obviously, in order for your guys' model to work, it's like automation on crack, right? Like you don't have the traditional margins and volume and things to do the traditional means of running. Like your expense ratios have to be extraordinarily low. And variations in those expenses has a larger impact because you don't have as many doors.
Yep.
Right now, with not as many doors, though, like you just mentioned, it's your impact overall to fill up everything else. That's not nearly a hurdle. You're not 600 doors going, can we fill up 600 doors, right? And if somebody else builds a facility in this town, are we done, right? Like you don't have that.
Yeah.
Now, walk me through when you were starting out. What was the operating of this facility? What'd you do? What did it look like?
So, I mean, it's really doors, an access control system, cameras, paint, and the software, right? And then you got to figure out, we forwarded the calls to our phones. So we were the customer service people. We were the maintenance guys. We threw up a Google Pin as which remains the, number one marketing tactic for probably any self-storage facility, right? It's just organic search on the map because storage is a commodity. But it was really just how do we make something clean that people want to put their stuff in, and how do we have them find out about it, and then how do we bill them? So like each of those things we were approaching without any prior knowledge. Like we'd never heard of SiteLink or StoreEdge or any of the other play, self-storage management. We're just like, which one has the most functionality that lends itself to distributing access without putting someone on site? Because we didn't have anyone on site. Like we would go there throughout the day and we were handing out flyers, like standing there with bagels, just trying to figure out, there's like non-scalable strategies to figure out what are the things that move the needle. But it's just us with our cell phones and with that access control system and doors in the basement. And it doesn't look like your typical self-storage facility. Like we're talking a competitive product for us is the condo building across the street that also has in-building storage, because our customers come from, on average, like a 3 to 4 block radius. That's it. Like you can very quickly, you need 0.1% of the people that live within a 3 block radius to know about you to fill one of those things up in New York. So everything is sort of based around it. We just got to be the right product for that subset of people. And that's what we spent our early days doing. And then marketing, we realized we got to do a little bit more on marketing from it later on.
So we've talked about your one location. Just real quick, how many locations do you have now?
We have about 60 local locker locations, and then we manage under our white label brand as well. So that's not in that 60.
Amazing.
And I just do want to caveat, like when we say we own 60, when we, we're owners of them, right? Like it's not a management style arrangement. People think it's this massive operation. Not everyone, keep in the back of your mind that these are some. Our smallest is 20 units. Our largest is 200, and we're sort of splitting revenue with landlords. So unfortunately, I wish I owned 60 proper self-storage locations, maybe one day, but that's not exactly how we're operating.
Yeah, but hold on here. First of all, if you own 60 large facilities, you are a big boy is an understatement.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you are hundreds of millions at that point for most people if you own 60 large storage facilities. So it's not like that means that yours isn't a lot, right? That's more than 99.9999% of it will never even achieve that. Now, when you look at what you guys did, though, the operational standpoint, though, how I view it is you're still administering 60 locations, because the exact same stuff that you have to do at one, you have to do at the other.
Yeah.
So operationally speaking, you have 60 automated locations, or over 60 or whatever it is.
Yeah, under local locker, and then another close to that under white label of real self-storage facilities.
So you got 120 plus locations that you are operating. That is incredible. I mean, because the functionality of it, you are still servicing, you are still bringing people in, you're still renting, you have turnover, you have everything with each individual location that you would in a normal storage facility. So that, operationally speaking, that is a big deal. That is a really big deal. And anyone that runs and operates storage locations knows that, yes, I may have less doors, but I'm still doing the same functionality. So that's awesome, you guys. That's really amazing.
When you guys are looking at property management software for your storage facilities, there's a ton of options out there, but no other option compares to Tenant Inc. Tenant Inc. is going to be your one-stop shop solution that has an amazing amount of tools that you can deploy at your fingertips to maximize the value of your facility, to operate it more efficiently, more effectively. They have an open API where you can back in almost anything you want. You own your data, and it's just an incredible solution. I can't say enough good things about these guys. Link is in the show notes. Be sure to check out Tenant Inc.
All right. I want to know, how are you operating 120 plus location? What does that look like? And what did you learn on your journey of, I've got this one, we're doing everything, to how do I do that now to 120 plus locations, right? So what did that look like?
Yeah. So again, we started this about 6 years ago. So the industry's tech stack, I think, has come a long way since then. But even 6 years ago, there were some real challenges, and we were doing something new, a little bit different. So the software that existed and still exists, it's pretty purpose built for a certain type of location. So it actually just kind of wasn't working for us. We originally were trying to run it on an existing self-storage software. And it's not their fault. Like they built it for a certain type of thing, so it didn't work for us. So we ended up building out our own website that could sort of automate bookings fully, because the existing softwares were built to have someone on staff that come, complete. You come in to complete the lease, and they give you access then. So we had it integrated with an access controller that was built for kind of apartments, not for self-storage gates. We hooked everything up to Stripe for auto payment. We built out our own sort of booking flow that we think was much better than the options at that time. And so we were kind of forced, because what existed didn't work. It kind of forced us to take a step back and rethink things. And then we've taken some of those learnings over to white label. And then, talking about how it went from sort of managing 1 to 100, I really think it was super valuable that when we started, it was just Pete and I. So customer service calls, maintenance, figuring out how to market. We were okay at some stuff, maybe good at some stuff, horrible at others, but we truly had to sort of do everything. So you could kind of see how problems were arising, the type of problems that you saw more frequently. And you really knew, once you start having employees, there's always some distance between you and information. So it's harder to sort of know what's going on. And you're able to sort of then empathize both with customers and with employees, so on. So I really highly recommend that when people are getting started in anything, to start at the lowest level. I'm reading a book right now about 11 Madison. It's like a fancy restaurant in New York. They're rated #1 restaurant in the world, and if they're bringing in the top chef or general manager, they still start them as a server, just to get that sort of true experience, because it then really helps you throughout the rest of your career or your business.
I guess that reminds me of a couple sort of operating rules that we learned the hard way, that we now sort of rolled out in third party in all of our facilities. It's like, people who are delinquent or once they're delinquent twice, they're always going to be delinquent. Anyone who wants to store, for the most part, anyone who wants to store after hours is probably someone you don't want there, or you probably want to make the trade-off where you don't need to capture that part of the market. At least in the city, power users are it's a very valuable product for them, either for a really good reason or a really bad reason. So like number of trips to the facility per day matters. There's these things we started sort of teasing out, where we're like, all right, now I know why that guy needs to be there every day. We don't want him there. But you probably were asking a little bit about specifics around the tech stack. So we started with storage, or at least at the time, they didn't have a great sort of automated remote booking software. This is 2018. They were about to roll out sort of remote move-ins and PDK and all these things that I'm sure you're aware of. So we used Brevo Access Control, which is a lot of apartment buildings have that, and office buildings in New York and elsewhere. And then we tied that in with Grasshopper, which is a phone, just like an off-the-shelf phone app that would basically call both of our phones, and whoever picked up, we would, on certain days we would just gotta wait for the other guy to pick up. I don't want to take this call. Let's see what else. So that was we had the storage website and software. What we realized was we needed to build our own facility management software. So we literally built our own facility management software back end, which is, for people who don't know, it's there's the front end, which is the website. It's where you click, you go self-storage near me, you go on Google Maps, you click on the website, you land on the website, and there are bookable units there. And that's kind of its own product that integrates with the back end, which is the facility management software, FMS. On the website side, we wanted to have control over the booking flow, because we thought there was just a lot of friction, especially if you're doing things remotely. It's just too many steps and opportunities for people to drop out of the funnel between, I want to book this unit, to a signed contract. So we tightened that up and spent a lot of time on that. because of that, we couldn't use an off-the-shelf product. And we also wanted to have like nice branding because we're, urban consumer product. So that led us to wanting our own website. And then on the software side, we were maybe not the right guys to do this the most efficient way, but we built our own facility management software because distributing access and billing people was just difficult running it remotely for these urban assets. And so that's what led us to, it's a custom back end and a custom front end that we use for local locker. And then for white label, actually kind of speaking to what Alex was saying, like the experiences that we had are what led us to realizing a lot of potential clients and owners out there probably have the same issues, right? It's a contractor who had extra space on his lot, put storage units up, and then is all of a sudden accidentally running a consumer business, even though he's usually running like a service business. And that's the customer service problem. Like forgetting whether we add value from a revenue management standpoint or have a nice website, like just at the end of the day, being able to answer phones for people and deal with customers and capture revenue like that. The insight was like, this is going to be valuable to people. And we have the scale through our own product to lend our team to do this for others. But we did learn that, and one of the things that we do that's important is we use our website usually, but we work with a lot of different facility management softwares because those companies make it very difficult to transfer. They tokenize the payments, and you can take a 250 unit tenant facility and have to recapture payment for all of them. And that is rattling a cage that a lot of people just don't want to rattle. And so we have built some tools and software that interacts with those, like kind of as a layer on top of the different facility management softwares. So while still using them, we won't use everything, but we like to have variety so that people can use our services without us forcing them to go on our homegrown product.
I love that. So very interesting. Because I don't know how much you guys know about what we did stuff, but we ran into the same issue and we built our own property management system that's a outward facing. So we actually sell it to the market and everything, but it was driven just like you guys said. We had all these issues. It didn't fit what we needed or what we wanted. And so we kind of built our own. I also am building, though, for us and our needs, a software system because we have all of these things that we need to look at. Everything from dynamic pricing to all these other stuff that it just doesn't really work. So internally, we were doing, I had 3-4 employees that when it came to time for us to analyze rates and revenue, everything else, we were working for days trying to pull data, information off all these different platforms and everything. And it was wildly overwhelming time. And I'm like, we can't be doing this, especially as we grow. So instead, we just are building an internal software system that just does it all for us. And it's like, it was born out of necessity, but the customizability of it for your business model is what I love. So you have a certain business model doing a certain way, and then you've customized the operations to execute that plan, and then you white label it so other people can go adopt it, and they have a customizable type system that they're using for it to execute that, as opposed to taking an off-the-shelf or a big one, and it's like, it does all these things I don't need it to do, and all these things that I need it to do, it doesn't do. And so it's meant for one purpose and one type, and even at that, it doesn't fill all the needs. So it's like this gap that you have to do. And with what you guys are doing, that's especially important, right? Every major software system out there was built for a 600 unit facility.
Yeah.
It was. They all are. That is the market. That is what they built for, to fulfill it. They were not built for, as I call what you're doing, micro facilities, right? And they weren't ever made for it, ever. And they aren't. Like, you could strip those things down to, it isn't. And so I think that's absolutely ingenious, and obviously the way you felt the need that you had to do it. But then, too, now you have an outward-facing product that adapts with your facility. That gives you guys, speaking just on the entrepreneurial side and on your business model side, that now reinforces, it gives you a moat, because now you guys have a specialty, not just business strategy, but tools and utilizations and how you do it that you can then sell to the public or other people that want to do it through your white labeling thing. I love it. I think it's absolutely ingenious. Right now, financing for real estate is really hard, even for self-storage. The markets are very challenging. Live Oak Bank is a specialist in financing for self-storage, including SBA loans. They are one of the leaders in financing all sorts of deals and deal size. We trust Live Oak Bank for their specialty in self-storage, their unique approach, and how they help their customers go through the process so there's no surprises. That in itself is a testament to their exceptional service and support. So whether you're looking to acquire, build, or expand a storage facility, Live Oak Bank has to be number one on your list to call. Click the link below right now so you can experience the difference that a dedicated self-storage partner can really make. Now, your model, my question would be, walk me through you guys' model on where do you think it works and where does it not work?
Yeah, sure. And when you're saying, are you speaking more to the local locker side of the business or the white label side of the business?
Yes.
Okay.
Front and back end, like because even like the connectivity, I just love how, as you guys know, the customer experience. I've always been a big thing with this, the siloed out nature of tech stacks, how they connect, and it does not match the customer experience. The customer experience is a fluid thing, where how we do the operations though is not, and on an online basis, it's extraordinarily fragmented, and you have completely different companies with different cultures, ethos, and you have gaps and holes, and most companies can't see the gaps and holes that are happening, and they're losing customers. They're getting data, not the data that they need to make the decisions that they need because of the siloed nature. They don't interact, they're not streaming, and they're like, well, we share APIs, and I'm like, that's not what I mean.
Sure.
Pushing and pulling some sets of data and not other sets of data. And as a customer, not sure exactly what I need for that business type, it's not supplied. How am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do, right? It's one of the largest problems that I view businesses in general have, but particularly in storage.
Yeah.
And so I love how you guys obviously had that same thought and knowledge because you work to build in things to smooth that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for clarifying there. Yeah, so totally agree with everything you're saying. Like the storage industry, particularly like the tech providers, they're so small. Like a lot of our friends work in sort of VC and tech, and how much money goes into developing software for other industries, relative to storage, it is minuscule.
Yes.
So yeah, there's tremendous gaps, and then it takes a lot of work to plug those gaps, right?
Yes.
And it does not make sense for any single store, 5-store, 10-store operator to do it. If you need to hire an engineer or two and a product manager and someone to, test bugs, one, that's not their skill set, and two, now any sort of income that was being kicked off by the properties is getting wiped away. So yeah, that was sort of our intuition with white label storage is like, and it's something like answering the phones, right? Like it's not so hard to answer the phones, but for one store, if you want to hire someone to answer the phones for 7 days a week, that eats up a lot of revenue. If you have more scale, then you can sort of amortize that person can pick up for a few stores. You can amortize that cost over a larger base. So we're sort of just providing our scale, our now sort of years of experience to allow individual owners to run their stores better and more efficiently, and kind of all those headaches that we've dealt with, and it sounds like you've dealt with, AJ, we're sort of trying to save some of our customers the pain that we've endured.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a pitch on the white label side, or like, and not even talk pitch, like the value prop is
the reality.
At a typical facility, what you see is it's either the person who owns it is running it him or herself by answering phones, sweeping units, overlocking units, kind of doing the letters and things like that, the auctions, or they hire one person to do that. And the reason that doesn't work is it's both an economic thing and a customer service thing. It's a commodity product. Storage just is a commodity. It's price and location, right? And if you're one person is sweeping units or overlocking units the moment that the phone breaks, it's just easy enough for that customer to go book down the road. So just starting right there, like you want it, We think separate phones and add physical ops. And then similarly, there's concept of cognitive burden that we talk about a lot, where you take it's like the McDonald's drive-thru. Putting a patty on bread is not hard. Taking payment is not hard. Taking an order is not hard. But doing all three of those easy things at once creates significant cognitive burden. And so our job is to take those tasks. We have a scale to do each of those individual things with one person or function in our business. So our US-based customer service team is trained to just answer phones the right way, a phone tree that we spend a lot of time thinking about. Similarly, with managing tasks, we have a remote manager who is responsible for telling the person who is going to site what to do, so that person doesn't have to think about it themselves. So it's like we kind of use people at the top of their license. And by the way, the person qualified to answer the phones, that's a different skill set than sweeping units. So that's our philosophy, and it also brings down. It is a cost reduction exercise too if you outsource it.
I completely agree. We've been, one of the things that we changed up internally about a year ago was you mentioned, so the skill set of sales is not the same as the service. And most of, whether it's outbound or third-party call centers, things like that, they are service centers. And so we internalized in order in a competitive landscape to reduce our overall marketing cost, because ad spend, pay-per-click, thing has gone so far up. I was like, we have to internalize the overall sales process, because what we could do, first of all, you can increase ad spend, but that's increasing obviously the money going. So it's much easier to simply increase your conversion.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if we could keep the ad spend but increase double our conversion rate, that is way more cost effective, because I can hire one person to do that to 5 facilities as opposed to doubling ad spend on all 5 facilities, right? And so we did that, and we've been building that out, and we track every single lead through funnels, conversion rate, and wildly successful. Like every facility, we are tracking the conversion rates, we track everything, but it's all within our control now and not farmed out. We had one day where we rented over 100 units in one day, and it's
a good day.
I mean, way better, right? And it goes back to the conversation, I believe, that like you just mentioned, Peter, that it was you have skill sets that are different, right? Well, in the storage world, the vendors and they're all dislocated, or they're not integrated. They say they are because we have an API, or that's not what I'm talking about, right? They're not integrated. They're different companies, different cultures, and they're generalized, and they fit a certain business model. So they're there for a service center, and the service center, oh yeah, but we'll do sales too. But is it a sales guy? Well, no, he does all these things.
Yeah.
Okay, well then your conversion rate then is half. That cost me on a facility this size $10,000 a month. Like astronomical, right? On one facility. So the generalized nature of it, I'd be better to keep paying you to do the service side, but I bring in all the sales. And this is one of the things that we found on our internalization of the functionality of our management, is that there's certain pieces and stuff we're carving out, and you have to bring them inside. So we utilize, but we integrate through service pieces and data and functionality. Anyone that is looking at the automation portion of the business, this is particularly important and true. And a lot of people think that automation, to be really good at it, is just, I have a website and a property management system, and I have a cell phone, and it works, right? First of all, that may work depending on your market, right? And depending on what's going on. And that worked really well prior to 2022. And we saw a boom in automation, but the boom in automation was way more reflective of the fact that every single unit in the nation was full. So you could automate because your conversion rates were astronomical, but it wasn't because anything you did. People had nowhere else to go. So you were seeing the benefit of zero options for customers. you didn't have to get there was no problem not having integrated system, not having gaps, not having holes, because it didn't matter. There were so many, right? And that is not the landscape today. So models like yours that are more specialty, broken up and understand, they perform higher.
We've interacted, I mean, a number of people that we work with, clients of ours, are people that they're like syndicators that are smart guys that know what a good asset looks like, and that have internalized that self-storage is a passive income asset, which the asset is. I mean, if you're just purely an owner, it is, but someone has to run the facility. And that is where, like, there is still an operating business associated with it. Same with apartments. Like, no one's calling Greystar like passive income. Like, Greystar's an operating business, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get into trouble when they first buy a facility. Is like, oh my God, now I know every tenant has my cell phone number because I accidentally had it. I've called them all back to collect payment from my personal cell phone. You know, I now need to know what the delinquency laws are and understand and figure out a way to send out certified mail. Yeah, these are all things that, again, they're not hard. Like, none of the individual things are hard, but like the playbook that goes into doing it consistently, on time, and well is an operating business. So we're still like, what do we build versus what's on the market? You know, we've done a lot with like customer service tooling. Is there an off-the-shelf product that we could use? You know, there are some things that are unique about how we take calls and the types of calls, customer services that we provide. So we're always like, we'd love it if there is an off-the-shelf tool for each of these individual things, but oftentimes it's like a combination of some tool plus a little bit of work we have to put into it.
Yeah, there's great off-the-shelf tools that are sort of generic, you know, great customer service tools, call center tools, but they're not tailored for storage. And then the storage specific ones always leave a little bit to be desired in terms of usability and so on when you're comparing it to those sort of, you know, mass produced, you know, products for the public at large. So sort of bridging those gaps is a big thing that we do and where we focus a lot of our energy.
I know a lot of your storage facilities are these micro facilities. What did you say your largest one was, though?
Yeah, so if we're talking about the local locker side of the business, our largest facility is around 200 units. But that business, like, it's in New York City, it's sort of closet-sized stuff. So even that 200-unit facility, it's 200 closet-sized units. So the rentable square footage is something like 3,000 square feet. So they're much smaller in scale than you know, traditional storage.
And your white label size, what is the range and size that you guys run on the white label side?
Yeah, there we're a little bit more, we're sort of agnostic. We just want to kind of be a one-stop solution. We found a pretty strong market gap in managing sort of remotely, nationally, the Class B drive-up 200-unit facilities. So that's sort of, I would say, our bread and butter. We managed smaller than that. We have some 50-unit facilities that we sort of our exact local locker playbook. And then we have some that are sort of approaching, you know, the institutional size asset. We can and would manage larger ones. But once you get at a sort of that level, there's a lot more, you know, competition with other managers with, you know, extra space storage and so on. So, you know, if you're bidding against extra space, what you can offer, your value prop is a little bit different there than if you're sort of the only game in town, or at least sort of the most resource game in town for these smaller facilities.
Yeah, we think about it as like if you know, they say there are like 50,000 self-storage facilities in the U.S. and I think there are more if you start to include the really small stuff, and the drive-ups. But we think of it as a pyramid, and there's nobody really trying to. The highest number of facilities are at the bottom of that pyramid, but there are not a lot of great service providers in that section. So that's what we found success, and we are trying to be sort of the best in class provider to the bottom of the pyramid. And I think with the scale, we just spent the last 20 minutes talking about all these things. Like we can do that because we can do it across a larger base of facilities.
Love it. I couldn't agree with you more. It is the part of the market. The upper echelons of the market have been consolidated and I believe maximized.
Yeah.
I honestly believe if you have a 60,000 plus square foot facility and you are in a first tier market, the ability for you to perform, compete, or even exercise yield is marginal, because those markets have become so efficient and they are so dictated by centrally ran REITs and big players that have now set markets. The second and third tier markets are getting there. The second tier markets, I would argue, are right below at this point, for any quality locations, assets, things like that. And two, by markets, I should make it clear, I'm not just saying the market, I'm saying the size of the asset. So that market with an asset in this size, if you go down to 5,000 square feet in New York, totally different, not even close, because no property management company is going to do 15,000 square feet right in New York. So that's a totally new market open up. And so you go and you compound that out into second, third tier, and then fourth tier markets, 10,000 square foot facility in a third tier market. There's zero options. I mean, trust me, that's why we started a management company, was because we had to. There was literally no option. And that was even for big facilities in third, second tier markets at the time, right? Now it's like those options exist, but where they don't exist is small facilities in second, third, fourth tier markets, even first tier markets, but really getting down, there is no options.
Especially from a third party standpoint. Although,
yes,
just like capital will sort of chase yield through the cycles into secondary and tertiary markets, it does seem like the larger players are starting to, the service providers are following suit. I think Extra Space sort of pioneered that you use the management company as a means to lead gen tool for the REIT. For the REIT capital. I think I don't know how closely you tracked it. We care about it because they're in our backyard. They bought a company called Bard. Like they made a couple acquisitions like 3 years ago of management companies and services businesses that are focused on remote and small assets. There was the Jefferson Street portfolio and management company, and there's a company called Bargle that they bought, which is essentially an in-building condo storage management company that has close to 20,000 units around New York. They bought it for close to $200 million. I don't know what the motivations are about to go. It's a great business, but it is definitely outside of the normal realm of what Extra Space would do, because they're looking for new ways to find yield and to grow their services businesses.
I agree. And that's going to continue, which I know you guys have a hard stop here in just a bit. So that leads me to kind of my question here. As this continues, the consolidation has to move down because there is no more up at the top, and technology has allowed these opportunities to exist. What is your guys' plan? Is your guys' plan to add 100 more stores and then sell with that huge premium number to an Extra Space, or whoever wants to pay stupid premiums like Extra Space did? Or is it to build out your own REIT? Is it, what is your guys' goal, your plan here?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of taking it a little more one day at a time. So I would say our plan is to have a much better product a year from now than we do today. And if you have a great product and your customers and clients love it, as long as that's happening and get solid unit economics, there'll be a good outcome for you at the end. So, I'm not also, if someone came today and gave us a stupid, crazy offer, of course we would talk about it. But for now, our plan is just to keep sort of building a product and delivering for our customers, and then whatever sort of comes will come.
Okay.
Yeah, the size of the market, just like every day our sales team shows us how deep this market is. Just like you close your eyes and point on the map, and there are a couple of self-storage facilities that are not, institutionally run. So we're just trying to build an institutional product for a non-institutional asset, and there's a lot of white space out there for us.
I love it, guys. I know you have a hard stop. I really appreciate you guys coming on. This stuff to me is extraordinarily, obviously, interesting. But I love what you guys have done and how you've scaled to 120 properties. More importantly, how the different approach you took. It's fascinating, and I think that you guys will continue to have not only great success, but you've hit something in the marketplace where a lot of people are trying to catch up. And more importantly, with your structure and system, I think you've done it right. I think a lot of people do it, but they do it ad hoc, or they don't do it like I think the way that you've built out the operational system and stuff. It's exactly how I would do it if I was trying to deliver and create a great product for the marketplace instead of patchwork or ad hoc. So I really, really like it. Now, where should we send people to learn more about you guys? Where can people go? Where should we send them?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if you're someone living in the city who needs a little extra space close to home, check us out at locallocker.com. But if you're a self-storage owner who needs a little help with their facility or just wants to, talk shop, you can get in contact with us at just Google White Label Storage, whitelabelstorage.com, and you'll find more about our product and us there.
Awesome. Thank you both. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. And we really do appreciate the hour you spent with us.
Thanks for having us on.